Hi, I'm Ingrid Whitaker, and welcome to Week 8 of Ethan and Ingrid's 2024 Big Year. Many people think that birding is walking down a trail and seeing a bird sitting on a post, basically birds served up on a platter. Don't we wish? So often it is excruciating, mind-numbing waiting. Take, for instance, our quest this week for the fan-tailed warbler. Normally a resident of Mexico and Central America, a single bird has strayed north and has been seen near the Styrofoam in Brownsville, Texas. That's right. Since we left Maine, we've been reading reports of this magic Styrofoam, and Ethan and I imagined a huge block of foam insulation at a construction site. Instead, the Styrofoam was a tiny piece of rubbish at the bottom of a dry stream bed in a claustrophobic hole in the woods. There we joined 15 other birders silently staring at the filthy trash. Some for 7 hours at a clip. Now that's entertainment. We visited the Styrofoam on 2 different days, striking out on the first visit and getting lucky on the second. On the latter, the bird showed for a brief glimpse after only 20 minutes of waiting and then again 15 minutes later. This time putting on quite a show, including walking across one birder's feet. Earlier that morning, we broke a couple speed limits getting to see the gray-collared Bacard. It literally disappeared a minute after we arrived. This was our 3rd trip to see the bird. Our visit was unsatisfying, and the photo was poor, but the bird counts toward our big year. The gray-collared Bacard is another Mexican expatriate, perhaps driven north by droughts in Central America. El Niño, a climate phenomenon that exhibits irregular quasi-periodic variation in winds and sea surface temperatures over the tropical Pacific Ocean, Ethan stole that part from Wikipedia, has changed weather patterns over the last few months, perhaps driving some of these rare birds into Texas. A third rarity we saw was the golden-crowned warbler, who played hide-and-seek with us for 20 minutes in Harlingen, Texas. A professional birding guide, Cameron Cox, who was helping his client find the bird, graciously helped us get on it too. A lover of thick underbrush, the golden-crowned warbler was just a few feet from us, and this was our best photo. While on the subject of guides, we'd like to thank our friend Eddie Edwards, a retired friend from Maine who does some guiding himself. He graciously escorted us around the Rio Grande Valley, helping us get bird after bird. One evening early in the week, Ethan and I stopped at Oliveira Park in Brownsville. It's a beautiful residential park full of soccer fields, skateboard pipes, tennis, and basketball courts. We were there just before sunset. This was a return visit, as we were at the park in December 2018 to watch the parrots come in to roost, and it was really worth the second visit. Just before sunset, as the lights for the athletic facilities went on, the parrots began to arrive. In the hundreds. The squawking was deafening. The funny thing, the kids playing soccer and the parents and grandparents watching the kids playing soccer never looked up at the swarming mass of green and red birds, nor did they seem to notice the dozens of birders and photographers standing on the sidewalks. One legendary birding spot that Ethan insisted we visit was the Brownsville landfill. Over the years, the dump has been a place to find Tamaulipas crow, Chihuahuan ravens, and rare gulls. We didn't stay long. Other than the usual landfill characteristics, there were so many birds, mainly vultures and laughing gulls, that it was impossible to get an ID on anything else. Ethan will be in the doghouse on that idea for a couple of weeks, at least. One of the most iconic birds of the U.S. Southwest is the greater Roadrunner. This bird is so elusive that despite his best efforts, even Wile E. Coyote can't capture him. And we haven't had much luck over the years either. Before this week, the only time we had seen one was when one ran across the road, living up to its name, in Patagonia, Arizona a few years ago. But thanks again to our friend Eddie, we were given a tip about one of their favorite spots, near the entrance to a nature preserve in the Rio Grande River Valley. We drove the road carefully, scanning for this rascally bird, and came up empty. So we walked around the preserve, coming up short on the rare blue bunting being seen there, and headed out. As we drove the road again, Ethan spotted a hooked beak poking out of the tall reeds at the edge of the road. Then, lo and behold, a roadrunner came into view. We quickly grabbed our cameras and barely got photos before he darted out of sight once again. The most beautiful bird of the week, according to Ethan, is the Altamira oriole. In this case, Ethan is wrong, as usual, because the actual winner is the green jay. Toward the end of the week, we left the Rio Grande Valley and drove north to Port Aransas for a few days. On the way, we came upon an enormous flock of snow geese and the smaller and cuter Ross's goose. As we were watching the birds from the highway, the ranch owner pulled up and invited us to enter the ranch and get a better view. It is amazing how many times during the last 2 months we have benefited from the kindness of strangers. While our detour north to Port Aransas gave us quite a few new birds, the main reason was to take a boat out into the intercoastal waterways to get better views of whooping cranes. This violated every competitive rule of big ear birding, making a detour to see a bird that you have already seen. We saw a large flock last week, but we didn't care. Whooping cranes are amazing. We saw about 20 of these endangered birds on our boat trip. This included 4 juveniles. Only 16% of whooping cranes nests are successful, so every juvenile is a small victory. Tonight, we make the first of 2 visits to the Santa Margarita Ranch, a place that has become the Fenway Park of birding in 2024. But you'll have to wait for next week's recap to learn why that is and what we saw. Make sure you don't miss our weekly 2024 Big Year update or our occasional midweek snippets by subscribing to our blog at bigyearbirding.com. Happy birding!